We're going to get right in it today because we got a lot to chat about.
A French researcher was denied visa due to his opinions on Donald Trump. There has been a lot of misinformation over the years.
Oh boy. You know what? We're going to go back and forth with this. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, the team has reached out directly and indirectly to over 500,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I like to say you are blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we are hanging out on prime time. I was the wrong show. Black Canada Talking. There's too many shows going on. Black Canada Talking, broadcasting live here on Sunday, March 8th. And in Toronto area, where I'm located, it is a wonderful day. The sun is shining. It's about 13 degrees Celsius, which is around 55 degrees Fahrenheit. People are out and about, even though the price of gas is ridiculous, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But we're always blessed and highly favored to have Cesar Ndema-Moussa with us on Black Canada Talking. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, Dr. Vibe. Very good. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, sisters and allies. Always a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Good. What's been going on since we last saw you?
Black History Month, some galas that happened. Also some good news that I will share later, probably in the next show. But some good things happening, Dr. Vibe. Lots of work, of course, and paying attention to everything that's going on in the world, right?
Mm-hmm. So we're past another Black History Month. What are your thoughts post Black History Month 2026?
I have a general tendency to remind people that it's not about the opening gala or the closing gala, and it's never about the month of February. The problem that comes with too many of our people, it's not so much that as a month to celebrate, but more as a month for too many people to be in pictures, to make it seem like they're involved. The real Black History Month is the whole Black History Year. And my reflection is, let us feed from that special time of the month, of the year, I should say, to keep going for the month. I heard our elder brother, I'm having a memory blank here, Reverend R. Sharpton, there you go, Reverend R. Sharpton, talking about Reverend Jesse Jackson in terms of his passing, that there's never time off when it comes to social justice. It's the same spirit that I'm always in when it comes to the liberation, the reawakening, and the emancipation, true emancipation of our people. There's never a time off. So another Black History Month, yes, but for too many of our people who want to veil themselves, and it's not just about, Donald Trump, MAGA, and the White House. No, white supremacy is real on the four corners of the world. So yes, there's never time off for social justice and for Black liberation.
Well, I know you have big love for your family, especially your growing daughter. What practices when it relates to Black history do you involve her in?
She could answer the question herself.
That would be no surprise.
Oh yeah. It's my daughter. She has books on Black pride, Black identity. She has books on activism. She has books regarding Black heroes. Actually, there is a latest book that my wife bought her. Oh, I wish. If I knew, I would have brought it. Your Legacy, as an African American, because her mother is African American. She has books, and the saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover." But this is a kid, right? So the images attract to her, but then I read to her the stories. Her mom read to her the stories. So she knows about Oprah Winfrey, just as she knows about Harriet Tubman. She knows about Barack Obama, just as she knows about Wakanda Forever, but also about Black Power. Just as she knows about Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, she can cite the names of all the heroes behind me. It starts young, it starts in the home. Our affirmations for her to go to bed, I've already shared that before. I'm beautiful. No, sorry, I'm intelligent. We always start with intelligence. I'm intelligent. I'm beautiful. I'm brave. I'm black and proud. She says her name and she says, I love me. It's very important. And it must start from a young age, must start from the home before society out there, before the influences of friends, and even sometimes from family members start to make her doubt or even to corrupt her sense of self and her sense of blackness. So yeah.
As we'll go into our break in a few moments, what are we doing right when it comes to Black history? And what's one thing we're doing right, and what's one area of opportunity that Black people could be doing better with Black history?
I would definitely say that something, and this is a very easy answer, something that's been done right is the acknowledging and every year people being involved. However, involved has to be taken carefully. I gave the example in Toronto about how so many Black festivals still going, but are actually owned by white corporations. So it's not just about the celebrating Black History Month, but the question is, are we the ones leading it? Are we the ones controlling the narrative, etc.? And the reason I say this is because things to be improved, we need to get past always celebrating the same people. We celebrate too many men, not enough women. It's great to know about MLK, Malcolm X, etc., but Nelson Mandela. So many Black people don't know who Marcus Garvey is. So many Black people have no clue who Steve Biko, Bantu Steve Biko is. So many Black people have no clue about the radical philosophical and liberation thinking of Thomas Sankara, just as of Kwame Nkrumah. But at the same time, I say this, and I've seen this in the high schools when I go to give presentations on racism. Too many of our young and adult people can name countless number of Black celebrities, athletes, actors, and etc., rappers, but are unable to name historical figures of greatness in Black history. And that is tragic. Absolutely tragic, because, as I often remind people, discrimination and ultimately racism is beyond the skin color, but it's also a matter of cognitive reply. When the white person can name Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Napoleon, arguably the three greatest generals of Western history, what can a Black person reply to that? And time and again, I've confronted Black people in exposing how now many people have heard about the name Mansa Musa, the richest man to have ever lived, until Elon Musk. And yet, he was a traitor to the Black cause. But how many people can name Pharaoh Thutmose III, the greatest African conqueror, who went all the way to what we call today Iran, and some people say he went all the way to the border of India, from Egypt, Sudan, conquering all those lands. Ultimately, it's not a matter of intellectual masturbation. It's a simple conversation in which, if you can say your name and where you come from, how come I can't say my name and where I come from Not because you prevent me to, but because I don't know, because I don't take the time. Because it's the same conversation as I remind people, in the 21st century, you cannot justify having money to go on trips in the Caribbean, buying the latest Nikes, going to the concert of whoever celebrity it is, and yet you don't put money to do a DNA test to know where your African ancestry comes from, to know the specific ethnicity where you come from. In the world that we live in, it becomes unforgivable. Yeah. I'm sorry, my answer was a little bit long.
No. It's all good. It's all good. It's very, very important because we don't want people to forget, and we want to celebrate every day, right? And there's always opportunity to make things better.
That is absolutely well said. And just like I said regarding my daughter, it starts at home. Mm-hmm. The books that you read to them. This is not about some type of he sounds so. So someone told me once that I'm Reverend Al Sharpton or any such. It is always a matter of bringing in healthy, physically, but also emotionally and spiritually Black bodies. Mm-hmm. Jewish, Chinese, Indian, you name it. All the kids of other identities, the identity starts at home with the parents.
There we go. 100%. Well, the president of the fan club is here. Michelle Baptiste says, greetings and salutations, good people.
Thanks,
so
Michelle.
Good to have her in the house as always.
Greetings to you as well.
And then also she says, I really like how you continue to instill confidence in your daughter.
Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely. Very important. And like I always say, she has a very diverse family. And it becomes even that much more important in this very diverse society that we live in, that I support, but for her to never feel any inferiority complex while being able to have white Jewish friends, white Muslim friends. Indian, Hindu friends lately. You see what I mean? So it makes a difference.
100%. Okay, on that, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We'll do some housekeeping. Then we got two subjects that are very, very important that we don't want to leave off the slate today. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
Hey, y'all, we've got your Saturday evening plans handled. It's smart conversation, lots of laughs, and a little bit of...
Did they really just say that?
That's because it's primetime Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern with Aisha K. Staggers and Laura Lalaki.
Where they try to make sense of the nonsense going on in American politics and culture.
Check it out. Let's watch Black Canada Talking live on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, where Dr. Vibe and Cesar Ndema-Moussa give their takes and POVs on news stories from a Black Canadian perspective.
All right, we're back on Black Canada Talking with Cesar and myself. A few things here. Please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show and you on YouTube and hit the notification button. So if you're going to subscribe, make sure you either watch live, watch replays, or engage, make comments. We want you to do that. And also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. To advertise your business product or service on our show, please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Cannot forget our good friend, Dr. Tachi, who is the power behind Indie Soup TV, independent content creators platform on YouTube with over 28,000 subscribers, which makes that site subscriber-wise on YouTube in the top 4% of all YouTube channels. And we're part of it. Happy to be part of it. Also, too, you know what we're going to do? We're actually going to show another quick, another quick video about something that your boy, Dr. Vibe, is involved with. So check it out.
Toronto, July 25th. The Narrative Power Summit is landing in the 6. This is about ownership.
This is about controlling our story.
If you're serious about narrative power, strategy, and ownership, this is the room you need to be in. To get your tickets, go to africandiasporanews.org/Canada. I'll see you in Toronto.
All right. So yes, African diaspora narrative is going to be huge, and it's driven by a gentleman named Philip Scott. And if you don't know who Philip Scott is, you should know. He is a Black entrepreneur who's been carving out his own place in regards to content creation. If you go to his African Diaspora News channel, has over 1 million subscribers, and he's basically built it on his own for the last 13 years. And one of the people that comes on monthly on one of my other shows, The Morning Vibe, Emma Ansa, does a lot of broadcasting there. And she's asked if I can host the event and also be part of the panel. So if you're in Toronto around that date, I would say you definitely want to check it out, because we've got a lot of powers. A number of people from the US, from the channel, are coming up and being part of the panel. I suggest check it out, not because of me, but because of everybody. And then finally, if you want to get in touch with Cesar, you can email him at president@rootsandculturecanada.com, or you can check him on email at Cesar Remy Emery. And then we got, sorry to bug you, we got another video because we want to introduce our first topic, and it is very apropos for today. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Today, we're diving into some real talk, the kind of conversation that doesn't just celebrate women, but challenges the systems that still hold too many back. We're talking about patriarchy. Patriarchy, it's one of those words people love to avoid. But here's the truth. It's not about men versus women. It's about power. It's about who gets the mic, who gets the money, and who gets heard in the boardroom or at the dinner table. And even in 2026, it still shows up, sometimes loud, sometimes subtle, but always shaping our world. Let's start with the wins. Around the globe, women are leading movements, businesses, and nations like never before. The gender pay gap has narrowed in places like Canada and parts of Africa thanks to new equity laws. Women-led startups are booming in tech, health, and green energy. But here's the flip side. When change happens, resistance follows. We still hear those quiet whispers. She's too ambitious. She's difficult to work with. Or, are you sure she can lead? That's how patriarchy survives and adapts. It doesn't always show up as violence or discrimination. Sometimes it looks like underestimating a woman who dares to lead with confidence. And brothers, we've got to be part of the solution. Real allyship means rethinking what strength looks like. It's not domination, it's collaboration, it's listening. It's using privilege as a bridge, not a wall. On this Women's Day, I'm asking you to look around your circles. Who's missing from the decision-making tables? Whose voice gets interrupted? Whose ideas get overlooked? Because dismantling patriarchy isn't just a women's issue, it's a human one. When women rise, families rise, communities rise, we all rise. So today, don't just post a quote, start a conversation, educate yourself, support women-owned businesses, mentor a young sister who's trying to break through. That's how we move from talk to transformation. Patriarchy, a reminder that equality isn't a destination, it's a daily decision.
All right. So on International Women's Day, Cesar, and I'll add in a little bit, I guess, too. We want to talk about, have a real talk on patriarchy. So, Cesar, how do you want to start on this?
First of all, that was a great video. And I notably liked the aspect of building bridges, not walls, just as the aspect of celebrating Women's Day is not just a quote or just a mention. Just as we were talking about Black History Month, it's an everyday thing. And as I've always reminded men and women for many years, I did not wait to become a father to care about women's rights. I didn't wait to have a daughter to care about women's rights. Two interesting aspects as we speak about today, International Women's Day, and We are men, of course, having this conversation, black men. But when they talk about resistance, if I'm not mistaken, over 300,000 federal jobs that have been lost, aka laid off, by the Trump administration, heavily targeting black women under the guise of DEI. And it is interesting to notice how we have a sister, a black woman, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I apologize if I didn't say her name right, who was labeled the DEI hire by the MAGA and Trump, and notably the so-called Jesus Reborn, aka Charlie Kirk, before he got assassinated. Meanwhile, the Trump administration just earlier this week, the first person of the Trump 2.0 administration being fired is a woman, Kristi Noem, and we can agree she was incompetent. But it's interesting to notice that the woman is the first person fired amid incompetences from so many other men. And he get replaced by Max Wayne, if I'm not really
I'll find out his name, but he was a former MMA wrestler.
Max Wayne Mullen, the senator, who only has high school education, was a former MMA fighter. I mean, the resume does not compare, just as with Charlie Kirk against women like Ketanji Brown Jackson and so many other women, notably black women, who are being shoved down the rug or down the bus under claims which ultimately come down to them being women. Worse if they are black, worse if they are lesbian women. It is indeed a reality when we talk about patriarchy. It's a reality in which I will absolutely agree with so many men talking about false accusations, talking about complaints regarding the family court system. FYI, from what I learned, if men actually challenge the family court system for custody of the child or to have more time with the child, overwhelmingly, they get it granted. It's just that so few men do such and actually put the time and invest in doing so. So by default, the woman is still considered the primary caregiver. Absolutely, we can talk about the plight of men, and we should. Example, male loneliness becoming, I think it's fair to say, a health epidemic. But today is International Women's Day. The month of March, technically, is Women's Month. But every day we should talk about the realities of being women when in this world of patriarchy in which, Dr. Vibe, to give you an example, when I train public servants and senior leaders on equity, diversity, and inclusivity issues, EDI/DEI, I've never had a woman disagree with me, and I say this with, of course, much humility to the fact that I am a man. But something I understood, and for those who wonder, I notably had a class of gender studies in university. We were two males, young men, in a class, those big classes, amphitheaters. Don't ask me how many women there were, but we were visibly the only two men. Like, it wasn't like, there were only two men. I remind public servants, senior leaders, that we still live in a world in which, whether you talk about the CEO the worker, the cleaning lady, or the sex worker down the street or anywhere else, there is a common reality to all these women, which is depending on the time they leave the office or they leave the house, especially if at night, there is a reality of potential harm due to the gender, aka sexual assault, aka rape, aka kidnapping and sex trafficking. No matter that we're talking about from the CEO to the sex worker. And very often when you have female staff, it is not rare the calculation of the distance between the door of the exit and the distance to the car, especially the darker it gets, just as when it comes to the employee who is also a mother. It's in the car that she gets to cry before she comes home and she has to put on a face as a wife or girlfriend, but especially as a mother, and too often as a single mother. And like I said, yes, false accusations, I've been victim of that. By women, of course. But that plight is very small. It's important. We don't minimize it. But let's be honest, it's very small next to the reality of challenges that women still undergo through. And this is not a matter of, as we speak of patriarchy, always pointing the finger at Afghanistan. Look at what they're doing to the woman. Iran, oh my gosh, they can't even take off the veil. No. The Handmaid's Tale was about America becoming further conservative, further religious, and further patriarchal. And it is in this America that woman, conservative woman, went all the way to the Supreme Court in fighting against abortion rights for all women in a society in which a president, Trump, white supremacist as he is, clearly intends not so much to make America great again, but to make America white again. And as such, they don't care that Black women, Indigenous, Latina, Asian get an abortion. Oh yeah, go ahead. The more the better for them. But they want to do everything and anything possible to increase the number of whites. The uterus is a battlefield in the name of patriarchy for the power and control of men.
We'll spend just a few short more moments to get to our second story. I would ask, and Michelle has a comment saying, in my younger years, I experienced workplace harassment by a male supervisor when I worked in summer road construction.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry you went through that, Michelle. And can we recognize, as Michelle said, road construction? You know, a part of patriarchy is that aspect of control, aka sending a message to women that this is not the place. Just as for us as Blacks, you know, entering fields in which we are not expected, being reminded of our place. It's the same thing. And too often, what gets to be done? Nothing gets to be done to the perpetrator. Oh, woman, you exaggerate. Oh, you Black, the race card again. And yet, it is factual, it is documented. Workplace harassment is very real. Workplace intimidation is very real. And when you add the intersectionality of gender, but also of age, etc., it makes it worse.
One other quick conversation piece. How can men hold other men accountable in rooms where there are no women present?
That is an excellent question, to which, as I remind people, I am not I mean, I don't believe in anything. I am not, I was religious. I rejected religion and God, etc. I'm also not a positivist person. I'm not a pessimist, but I'm not a positivist. I am a realist. And as such, part of my values, which are my character, is an example in which, as a man, I do not allow around me, in the privacy of my home, my friends and family know this. I do not allow racist jokes, just as I do not allow sexist jokes. I don't allow homophobic jokes. Um, my wife and I are very clear about that because, Dr. Vibe, you can imagine what kind of hypocrite would that sound like, presenting on EDI and everything you want, but in the privacy of my home, the N word, calling women by the C word, making rape jokes because I have some guy friends over and we're playing dominoes, homophobic jokes because as if I don't have a cousin close to me who is gay. And even if I didn't have a cousin who is gay, still. So the holding other men accountable start first and foremost by holding ourselves accountable to the values that we claim to be about and imposing them upon another. This is not about some type of moral or speech control. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is that in my presence, especially in my home, such language is not tolerated. Furthermore, because of who I claim to be about, who I stand for in regards to social justice, it's like having an ally, white, Asian, whatever you want to call it, ally to the black cause, Wakanda forever. Let's give the mic and the platform to a black person, and in the privacy of the home, they don't say anything when the spouse is racist. They don't say anything when the parent is sexist. They don't say anything when the relatives are making homophobic jokes. Is that an ally? That's a hypocrite. So we start holding other men accountable by holding ourselves accountable and saying, no, I will not allow you to use such language. If you want to use it, as you are free to do, freedom of speech, I cannot associate myself with you. And I have cut off friendships because of such. I have ended, I am very well known here in Ottawa. My friends have stories about how I have cut off friendships due to racist language and sexist language because, and this is proven in terms of social sciences, but also criminology, it is never just language. Language manifests into actions. I cannot pretend to be caring about women's rights and loving my daughter, respecting my spouse, and here I am. B word to the left, C word to the right, rape jokes, and forget International Women's Day. How and why would any woman trust me? And this is not to paint women as the eternal victims who need male safety. But how could and why would any woman trust me that I can be an upstanding citizen and a solid man telling other men, you shall not rape her, as I've done many times as a security manager in nightclubs. Telling other men, don't hit her. It's never just words.
All right. I think down the line we should have a full show and have this conversation because there's so much more and so much deeper we need to get in on this conversation. But we got one more story, and as always, or most times, we're going to introduce it with a video. So here we go.
What really drives U.S. policy and Iran ideology, oil, or ego? Today, we're unpacking the Trump-era Iran story, a collision of history, geopolitics, and personal ambition that helped reshape the global stage. To understand it, we've got to rewind. Iran wasn't always America's villain. In the early 20th century, Western powers carved up the Middle East for oil, controlling land, governments, and resources. Iran sat at the center of that extraction empire. In 1953, when Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, tried to nationalize Iranian oil, the US and Britain orchestrated a coup. They reinstalled the Shah, a pro-Western monarch who kept oil flowing and dissent quiet. That's where the imperial pattern began. Fast forward to 1979. Iranians overthrew the Shah, launching the Islamic Revolution. From that point forward, mistrust defined US-Iran relations, hostages, sanctions, and wars shaped by oil politics and power projection. Now enter Donald Trump. In 2018, he pulled the US out of the Iran nuclear deal, a deal that limited Iran's ability to build nuclear weapons in exchange for lifting sanctions. Why? Partly because Obama signed it, but also because Trump saw power in confrontation. Sanctions choked Iran's economy, while Trump framed it as maximum pressure. To his critics, it looked like old-school imperialism, dressed up as deal-making, controlling energy flow, isolating rivals, and flexing military might. To supporters, it was about forcing Iran to behave. Either way, it deepened decades of tension. At the heart of this story is ego, not just Trump's, but America's. The US sees itself as the global referee of oil, democracy, and order. Iran, meanwhile, sees resistance as survival. Imperialism laid the groundwork. Oil fuels the interests, and ego keeps the fire burning. So when we talk about Trump in Iran, it's not only a headline, it's a reminder that power never really leaves the stage. It just changes its actor.
Right. We haven't had Cesar on since the war has broken out, but he's going to talk today about that and also 47 in Iran Explained, Imperialism, Oil, and Ego. Go ahead, Cesar.
Week 2. Before I start, allow me, Dr. Vibe, to send my solidarity and sympathy to friends of mine in the region, or friends, just as friends who have family over there. As you remember, in November, I was in Dubai for business as an angel investor. And as such, I made other acquaintances due to interest. So I hope, honestly, safety for all of them in this tense period. The second thing we must not forget, to the great displeasure of many people, is that, yes, the USA and Israel attacked Iran last Saturday. Technically, Iran has been at war with Israel since 1979 and against the so-called Great Satan, aka USA. But as your video very well demonstrated, the Western powers have been at war with Iran since the 1950s over oil. Now, the third point I want to make, as we're talking about history, is how, as a Pan-Africanist, many will be surprised. Cesar, why do you care about Iran? You know, this is not Africa. This is not the Caribbean or about Afro-descendants. My sisters and my brothers, it is important to remember there is a Black community in Iran, Afro-Iranians. Those of you who follow the celebrities known as Kardashians may have noticed that they have two, I think the twin sisters or two sisters who are Black, whose background is actually Iranian. Afro-Iranians, descendant of slavery, but actually there are Afro-Iranians who have been there forever, just as the original Arabs, the indigenous Arabs, before the white Arabs that we see today, were actually Black. For those who do not know, 2008, when Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, and I worked for the Obama campaign as an international, part of the International Corps of Volunteers, It had been 2,500 years since a black man was at the center of global politics because it was the Persian army. So Iran is the name of the country, but the ethnicity is Persian. It was the Persian army of Emperor Cyrus the Great, through his son Cambyses, who defeated Kemet, ancient pharaonic Black Egypt. It was the Persian armies of Cambyses who defeated Kemet, and that was the end of Kemet. That was the end of the Black Pharaohs as we know it. Now, as I made these 3 points, and we talk about Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was bombed, and with his granddaughter, his daughter, and 40 others. Here, the conversation is very much one to which I think opinion polls speak about 60% or more than 60% of Americans who don't support this war, and many in the MAGA movement are rightfully claiming it as this is not putting America first, but very much this is doing the bidding of Israel. And I would actually say the bidding of Prime Minister Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu. But we got to be careful here, because is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wrong in claiming that Iran posed an existential threat to Israel? He's not wrong. The Ayatollah regime has always been very direct and forward in its will. Now, I might be wrong here, but if I'm correct, the intent of the Ayatollah regime was against the Zionist state of Israel, not against Jewish people, because, surprise, surprise, there are Jewish people in Iran. The first Jewish community in the world, surprise, surprise, the first Jewish community in the world is actually in Iran. It's from Iran, yes, and it's in the Bible. The prophet Esdras, in the 6th century before the Common Era, led the Hebrews of the tribe of Judah, Jewish means from the tribe of Judah, back to the land that we call today Israel/Palestine. But there are some who remained. Those are that's the first Jewish community. Now, in terms of our current conflict, I hope it does not escalate further as we see Iran sending bombs to nearby Arab nations that notably house American bases. But it ignites furthermore the conflict of sectarian/denominational violence in Islam, as Iran is a Shia Muslim nation and the other Arab states overwhelmingly are Sunni nations. Don't get me wrong, there are Shia in other nations, even in some of the nations that have Sunni leadership. But the conversation goes further when we understand that the Persian Empire, or the Sassanid, so that was the Persian Empire, basically Iran before Islam, got converted by force in such a brutal conquest by the Arab Muslim. Sunni was not the term at the moment, because every Muslim was Sunni. Such brutal conquest. This is why Iranians today, they speak Farsi, not Arabic, and they're not Arabic, they're Persian. They kept the culture, but the culture has been heavily influenced by Arab culture, notably of Islam. And thus the conversation notably regarding women's rights, the hijab, and etc. and the oppression. One can absolutely oppose the Ayatollah regime, and at the same time, and I say this with much respect and humility, as I am not Iranian, and at the same time oppose the war that kills so many innocents. Of course, I understand that so many Iranians celebrated the death of former Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who latest news speak that his son, Moshtaba, shall replace him. Of course, we can understand that. But let us not forget that this is the same conflict in which American bombs upon a school killed, I think, over 160 or 180 children. Is the death of one man as cruel, evil, or how much you detest him justify the death of 160 or 180 or even one child who is innocent? As I said, I am neither positive, neither an idealist, neither a dreamer. But are you going to go to the parents of those 160, 180 children and tell them that the death of the children was worth it in order to kill, to justify, to celebrate the death of one man? We're entering week 2, Dr. Vibe. It's very worrisome. I have investment in Dubai.
Well, let me ask you this conversation piece. In what ways does 47's actions in Iran fit classic definitions of imperialism?
Oh, but you see, this is where some people may have heard about the notion of a war of choice. This did not have to happen. It's the same as what happened with Venezuela and the kidnapping, because that's what it is, the kidnapping of another foreign leader, Maduro, Nicolas Maduro. Here it's the killing of another foreign leader. Would Americans be at ease that some nation out there decides to kill the leader, no matter how much they oppose him? Now, don't get me wrong. As I said earlier, it's absolutely understandable to celebrate the death of the dictator. But at what cost? And when we talk about imperialism, beyond even oil, and we see the increase in the price of oil, gas, and thus the question of affordability, as everything else will increase in price, truly showing you how interconnected the world that we live in politics, just as in economics, and ultimately in society. I filled up my wife's car tank. Gas was at $1.58 or $1.54 here. A few weeks ago, it was in the 120s. $1.20, and now 30 to 40 cents higher. Poor families, single mothers, senior citizens, people looking for work, immigrants, refugees. The impact can be severe. And this is, of course, what Iran is intending in order to put pressure on Trump, who has the pressure of his MAGA base, rightfully saying this is not America first, but this is doing the bidding of Israel to its prime minister. But at the same time, the incoming midterms. It is imperialist when a president does not clearly define the reasons for war. I don't hold it against him not to have gone through Congress. He's not the first president to have done such. And this is not a matter of him being a Republican. Republicans and Democrats have done so. But this is part of that very narrative of painting Iran as this great threat that may drop a nuclear bomb on us. Let's just remember a few months last year, Trump celebrating the B-2 bombers having annihilated Iran's nuclear capabilities. And a few months later, apparently, they magically rebuilt all of that. It is imperialist even more because this is the painting of the narrative of the evil Muslim that was denounced by Dr. Said back in the 80s, if I remember, with the book on Orientalism. This is part of the conversation. It's part of the conversation for those on the right about Samuel Huntington, Clash of Civilization, which is not even so much about other civilizations, because many people don't know this, but originally the thought was that Japan would become America's great enemy, as by the mid-80s, 1987, 1988, Japan's, if I recall, GDP was 2/3 that of America and kept on rising. Remember, Japan, 1945, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 5 years of occupation by General Douglas MacArthur, to the point that the Japanese Constitution was created by the Americans. In Japan, you're not allowed to have guns. This is a culture that was warfaring. Japan was rising so great, but then Japan fumbled. Japan did not have this Bushido samurai spirit of revenge against America. Japan was like, hey, we got American bases protecting us. That's good. Let's keep them. So then you need to create a new enemy, because suddenly the USSR also fumbled. The friend was China. China that America propped up in order to break the alliance between China and USSR in the context of the Cold War. America propped it up. Richard Nixon and I'm having a memory blank. His former Secretary of State.
Oh
My gosh. Yes,
No,
Henry Kissinger. There
okay.
you go. There you go. The visit of Nixon to Mao in China,
China,
1972.
yes. Famous visit.
Yeah. And then Mao dies 1976. Deng Xiaoping comes on. China rises again. Everything is going great. America actually helped China become rich. People get shocked when I tell them the leader of the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, Chairman Xi Jinping, where do you think his daughter went to school to? Dr. Van, where do you think his daughter
America,
went to?
obviously.
Of course. But then 2016, 2017, China becomes too great, too powerful. Obama shifted his focus from Europe. Basically, since America has existed, 1776, the Declaration of Independence, the War of Independence, 1783, the actual independence. Since America has existed on paper in 1776 until 2016, aka for 240 years of its existence, America's center of interest was Europe. 2016, 2017, it shifted to China and the Far East. But then, kind of like Cuba in the Missile Crisis under JFK, you know, that little rock or little stone in your shoe. You can walk, you can run, but there's that little pebble. That was Iran. That was the Ayatollah, the Mullah, the claim. And the Europeans are also guilty of this, of always making Iran bigger and worse than it is. I am not defending the Iranians. Anyone who knows me knows I categorically oppose religious extremism. But I ask the question again. To what extent do we justify the death of the innocents by a regime that has clearly shown to be brutal? I remember Dr. Vibe, and Dr. Vibe, you know this, 2009, the Green Revolution, with the effigy of this woman, as we speak about International Women's Day, Neda, the Green Revolution 2009, thousands killed. They just wanted more freedoms and rights. It wasn't even about bringing down the regime. Thousands killed. And yet the coverage ended I was in Cuba. The coverage of the Green Revolution ended because the biggest celebrity in the world died that summer, Michael Jackson. I'm still not over that. So now you see, a few years later, Massa Amini regarding the veil. And now we just saw end of last year. It's estimated 30, 40,000. Who knows how many got killed? So now Donald Trump wants to play the hero. He wants to play the person who will bring peace. And indeed, telling Iranians, you will never have a better opportunity. But we know how shifty Donald Trump can be. We know how the perceptions and the opinion polls matter to him. From Benjamin Netanyahu, it is clear Iran is an existential threat that must be eradicated in terms of its regime. I am not putting on Benjamin Netanyahu any genocidal intention upon the Iranian people. Absolutely not. But the regime, and yes, like I said, we can absolutely oppose the regime, this radical religious regime, this extremist religious regime. Look at the rest of the Gulf states. Dr. Vibe, I was in Dubai. Amazing. Saudi Arabia opening up. Iran. But again, to what extent do we justify the death of innocents?
All right, I know you've got to go, but the president of your fan club has a very quick question for you. You're saying, Cesar, what is your prediction about Cuba?
Michelle, what I would say, we are March 8th. The midterms are in October. There are many angles in order to respond to that question, but one of them would be the extent to which the American army will have used ammunition against Iran, and ultimately, will there be troops sent on the ground? Today, a 7th American soldier died. How many more might die by the end of this month? How many will be too many? And for these Republicans in the Congress and senators, fully realizing Iran is a further distraction from addressing the Epstein files. To what extent are they going to keep bucking, or they're going to dare to stand up to Donald Trump? Because Iran, that's Benjamin Netanyahu, existential threat. Cuba, Marco Rubio. Trump doesn't care. Trump doesn't really care. It's like, yeah, can we make a deal? You know, the art of the deal is not about winning or anything. No, it's what can I get out of it?
You know what? I'm going to politely interrupt. 47 is all about winning. He's all about winning.
But his definition of winning is not what we understand as winning.
Oh no, his is total. 100% for me and nothing for you.
There you go. So for him, Cuba, like, okay, are you ready to put a different head? You know, you're gonna give us a couple of millions. Look at what happened to Venezuela. So his definition can be like, you know, let's just kidnap the leader, put him in jail, and fabricate some whatever accusations. And you know, we got a new figurehead. It's the same regime, but they're gonna give us, you know, some free flights for Americans to go to Cuba. Okay, sure. Michelle, what I would say is that it will greatly depend on what happens regarding Iran, the evolution of the Epstein file, or the continuous covering up of it, and whether Republicans in Congress and Senate stand up to Trump ahead of the midterms. I was in Cuba, as I was saying earlier, back in 2009. The situation has worsened. But at the end of the day, on the four corners of the world, no matter the people we talk about, human rights, dignity, respect must matter, because people don't forget. They don't forget what tries to humiliate them, and they don't forget what kill them. And the risk is that you end up having people wanting to take revenge. We saw what happened last week. The attack on Iran, there was a brother from Senegal, an African, who went to conduct a terrorist attack on a U.S. base, I think Austin, Texas, with a shirt saying something about belonging to Allah and doing this act in the name of Iran. This is the same conversation where 11 years ago, 2015 in France, the Charlie Hebdo terrorist attack that killed so many people, so many innocent French enjoying the Saturday, Jewish people just living their lives. Victims of the reaction to state actions. This is what is even more worrisome.
True. And yesterday, Aisha mentioned that a number of Americans don't realize that when Iranians go to fight, they fight with death in mind. They're more than ready to die.
It's the Shahid mentality. Shahid,
Yes.
which means martyrdom mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and she questioned if a number of Americans going there, are they ready to? Okay.
No. Let us be honest. The American army is an army of conscripts in which volunteers. It's an army of volunteers, and we know the main reason people. I might be wrong on my data, but as far as I know, the main reason people are entering the army is not out of some patriotism or because their grandfather was in the army or whatever. No. College is paid.
Yes.
Health benefits.
Yes.
You get a job with experience.
Yeah.
You get to travel around the world. It's not, I want to take a bullet for the flag. Like the other people will clearly, martyrdom is a great thing to look for. It's a different mindset.
Yeah. All right. That is it for today because Cesar has to make a move. But before we finish up, as always, if you want to get in touch with Cesar, it's email presidentrootsandculturecanada.com, Facebook Cesar Remy Emery. Again, if you want to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, hit the notification button and subscribe. Also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Go and advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of. Email me, dr period VIBE at the DR VIBESHOW.com. You can also watch replays of this show on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and also the Dr. Vibe Show website. And also, too, don't forget the ADNC Narrative Power Summit, Aqua Supper Club in Toronto, Saturday, July 25th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. There is the link if you want to find out more information and register to go to it. It seems the VIP sales are going first, which is it's a good sign. That's a good sign, but I'll be at it, and a number of prominent African/Black Americans will be there giving their take on media and how we can make positive footprints when it comes to media. So as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller, get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. And as always, God bless. Be well. Keep the faith while good. And Cesar, I think we need to do a whole show one time on this subject, like America and imperialism. I think we need to do a deeper, because there was so many questions I wanted to ask you and say, we got to come back to this and go into a full dive. So hope we can get you to do that in the near future.
I'm honored. Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Thank you, everyone. Sisters, brothers, and allies.
Be well.